Uh, so I'm Nicola Hillary from Transition Network, and I'm one of the co-guardians of the Municipalities in Transition Community of Practice. And if you're new to it, the Municipalities in Transition project focuses on collaboration between communities and municipalities to create systemic change for sustainability, which is no small task. And we've created a flexible framework or system that's currently being pioneered in 5 communities. And but we know that there's many other places around the world where this type of collaboration is happening, involving transition groups and other similar groups. So this community practice is for people who are involved in that or interested in that collaboration at municipal scale for systemic change. And yeah, so I'm from Transition Network, and at Transition Network, our staff and trustee team, we shifted to shared governance as how we worked in 2018. And leading up to that, we were supported by Université Nous, by Guillaume and his colleagues, who were a massive help to us in kind of helping us learn and experience and make that shift. I would say it's given us much greater clarity in decision making. It feels like it's helped us build a collaborative culture. The questions, of course, of those priorities of what should we do with our time and how should we do it, they still come up, but it feels like now we have much greater clarity about how to work with those questions, how to get to the right decision for us as a collective. And in the Municipalities in Transition project, what we see is people from the community and from the municipality coming together to create some sort of collaborative team that's going to try and work together on this complex project. And actually, that can start with a very unequal power relations because of the way that people are used to working. And one of the things about shared governance is that it really tries to equal those power relations and give people an equal voice where perhaps there hasn't been before, and build the sort of the team working that you would need for such a complex project. So we recommend some sort of shared governance, such as Sociocracy 3.0, but there's other methods, including Université Nous. And we recommend it for those collaborations, and in fact for your organisation, whatever group you're working in. So hopefully you'll find something of interest in this webinar. And I'm going to pass over now to Guillaume Dorvaux of Université Nous.
Thank you, Nicola. Hello to everybody. Welcome in this webinar. So I'm Guillaume. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you MIT to give me this opportunity to share with you, to have this time with you. So we'll spend 2 hours together. I can just notice that I'm a little bit nervous because I'm not so used to driving webinars, and it's the first time I'm doing it in English, which is not my mother language, as you can hear. So I probably will need a little couple of minutes to warm up so that my English is as understandable as possible. I'm happy to see your faces here. That's cool. So I imagine that you are here because of an interest on shared governance, and maybe part of different or one organization which can already use maybe sociocracy or holacracy or something else, cracy. And maybe you have some concerns, you have some difficulties, and you are maybe eager to know more about cooperate. And it's also my case. I would like to increase my cooperation skills and way of cooperate together. I think someone here has the microphone on. Yeah, okay. I will do my best to make a link in this time between your reality, your questions, your different concerns, and the experience that I can share and also others can share here in this so-called shared governance or cooperation way of doing things together in organizations. Maybe some of you were here on the other webinar run by James on Sociocracy 3.0. And maybe there could be links between these two webinars. We will see on the way. So I've noticed that cooperating is difficult. And I think, and I hope actually that some of you have also the same feeling that it's not so easy to cooperate. And I know, actually, I know why it's so difficult. It's just because, you know, people, my colleagues, don't agree with me, although I know the truth. That's the problem. Maybe some of you have this problem also. So I work at the UDN. I've been working there from 7 years now, and UDN has a 10 years experience on sharing the power. And at the core of this association, that was this question of how can we deal with the concerns that the humanity has in the different organizations we are in, from small organizations to bigger one. How can we deal with all these problems, ecological, social problems, with using the same patterns? How could it be possible? And we think, as Einstein said, that we have to change the way we do things in order to change the world we are living in a way, from our organization. So we were, from the very beginning, focusing on how we can change the way we work together, the way we interact, how we decide together, where the power is. And from the very beginning, so we decided to invent a shared governance using at the beginning sociocracy, then after holacracy, NVC, and other tools. And from the beginning, we have experienced how it is to share the power and what it brings. And on the path, on our way, we have seen that using a very good tool is not enough to make it work, that it's still difficult to cooperate, although we have different tools. And what we like to see, like to focus on, and what we've seen is really that what is precious is this interaction between the I and the we, between myself, my world, and also the way we work together. And very often the solution to go on and to cooperate very well is really to change my posture, what we call this posture. You know that perfectly. At TN, we were saying that all the time, you know, this posture, this individual posture. How do I behave? What can I change in myself so that it can work in the group? And how this experience in the group changes myself also. So this link between the I and the we is very, very, very important. More seriously, I think that cooperating is difficult because of different factors, and 3 of them to me are important. In our world, we are mostly in a competition paradigm and not a cooperation paradigm. In the schools, in the different organizations and institutions. The second of these reasons is that very often in the organizations, it's not clear what the power is. The rules are not clear, or even rules are clear on the paper, but in the reality, rules are totally different, and the power is not clear who has the power to decide different things, for example. And the last thing is really also the last reason I can also share here is that as we are all different, we are all different people with different stories and different problems, different ways, different journeys in our lives. So we think that we can understand each other's, but actually we don't. We all speak a different language. So that makes difficulty really to cooperate, to my experience. Last time, James in Sociocracy 3.0 has said that in each organization, each situation is unique, and I totally agree. And he said, yeah, it's not about having the right tool to solve the problems. It's not sufficient. It's really helpful, but it can be also, it has to be completed by the posture and by each consciousness, how we are conscious, or how each of us in a group are conscious of their posture and the places where it's difficult and so on. So we will focus today on the same question as last time, how to grow more agile and resilient learning organizations. And I will add making links between tools and consciousness for that. And as I was asked to run that webinar, as we prepared it, we really decided to make it as efficient as possible and to give you the opportunity to ask some questions. And also maybe some answers together, and I could also share my experience and give some answers. So we will do following in this webinar. We will first so divide into groups. We will be 3 of us in each group. If it works, I didn't count, but if it doesn't work, there will be a group of 2 or 4. Nicola will do it perfectly. And in the first thing we will do in that group will be, so groups of 3, will be to check in and to share with the others how you feel, how you are feeling, and something you want to share that can be useful to make the link between you. Okay, this is the first step of cooperation. Make a link, give something from you here in the middle. Because after that, there will be a video. Some of you might have already seen it by preparing this webinar, some not, that's okay. And during this video, which is 12 minutes long, you could ask for yourself, you could write for yourself your questions you have, okay? And after that, there will be a time where in your groups, the same group, you will have an occasion to choose together, to decide together, which is the question that can be given back to the bigger group so that we can have a questions and answers sessions after that. So I don't know how many people are here at the time, 26, yeah, okay. So I don't know if we will be able to answer all the questions, but it's not that much important. We will do our best for that. And we have decided, so as we have prepared that with Nicola and Tommy, we have decided to show you a video which is on consent. And this is, so you will see it's a video in French, but there are English subtitles. We have been doing this work by accompanying TM, so it's one of the things that can be useful for you also now, so I'm happy for that. And this is not a video about explaining you the process of the consent. Maybe some of you know it perfectly. It's more something about the philosophy of the consent. What is hiding behind this way of deciding together? What are the new paradigms in that? And we've decided to show this video because in these paradigms in the consent, there are lots of things that are very important for the whole organization, for the whole way of working together, sharing the power, and speaking about the posture for that. So the idea will be really to have this common film, this common video, as a common point, a starting point, to make the link with your experience and ask some questions and answers. And I have the answers after that. So it could be questions about technical points. It could be questions about something more about posture. And I will try to make the links between process and posture in my answers after that in these times. So normally we'll have a 12 minutes video session. Then at a time there will be a break. No, sorry. After that, there will be a time for you all in the small room to choose, to decide your question, okay? Then a break, and then back to this group to answer your questions. And I think I forgot here. One thing right now is that I will try a game, which is to be the invisible eye in the groups. So, you know, when we facilitate seminars, sometimes when we are in subgroups, the one who animates can go from a group to another, just to have an ear, just a feeling of what's happening in the groups. So if you don't mind, if you're okay, I will sometimes maybe come into your group and you will just see me, but I won't say nothing. And then back to another room. And please, if you don't feel confident with that, if you don't feel at ease with that, just one of you can say it, or I would prefer not to be how we say, spied in the space. And then I will flee and go to another room. It's just to have, for me, another view of what's going on, because it's already an experiment in itself to choose a question in a group of 3 that can be interesting to feel and to feed into the conversations we will have afterwards. I think it's me. Maybe Nicola or Tommy, if I have forgotten something.
I don't think so. I'm going to send you all to your groups so you can check in. How are you feeling and what do you want to share here and know that can be useful for you in the groups.
And I see you later on. Have fun.
So, is that 2 people? Oh, 1 person who doesn't have a group. Do you want, let me assign you to a group. Oh, remarkable.
Thank you.
That worked. Great.
I was asked to go to breakout room.
Okay, I think everybody's back. So Guillaume, do you want me to share the video?
I think it's okay, yeah, to go on with the video. Maybe just one thing, as I said, prepare your questions and yeah, make sure you make a link with your own reality, your concerns, something which is alive. Yeah, so
Okay.
that we have something juicy and very useful after that.
So I'm going to show this video by sharing my screen, but if you're feeling, if you know that you've got an unstable connection and you'd rather shut your screen and sound off and play it for yourself, that's the link to the video.
And have you shared the link, or you will share the link after to the Google
Just
Doc?
put it in the chat.
Write the question. We'll put it on the chat.
Mm. Okay.
Dans cette vidéo, nous allons aborder la philosophie du consentement. Mais commençons par ce qu'il n'est pas. Avoir consenti à une décision ne veut pas dire « tout le monde a dit oui, banco, eureka, yalla !» ou « nous avons pris la meilleure décision » ou « tout ce que je pense se retrouve dans la décision finale » ou « à force de discuter, nous avons trouvé ce petit point d'intersection entre nos différentes visions du monde et de la stratégie à adopter ». Non. Avoir consenti veut dire que personne n'a dit non. Je ne sais pas pour vous, mais pour moi, quand j'ai pris conscience de cette nuance, je me suis dit « ouais, bof, le consentement, c'est un peu la solution par défaut, le truc qu'on n'a pas pu arriver au consensus, un genre de compromis qui sonne un peu comme un aveu d'échec de notre capacité à coopérer. » Et puis en le pratiquant, je me suis rendu compte au contraire, le consentement était très créatif et libérateur au niveau collectif et individuel. Dans cette vidéo, j'aimerais vous partager quelques-uns de ces changements profonds que moi j'ai trouvés cachés entre les lignes du processus et qui ont changé ma façon d'aborder le faire ensemble et d'y prendre ma place. Tout d'abord, cela m'a permis de passer d'un mode où j'étais centré sur les solutions à un mode centré sur les besoins. C'est-à-dire, plutôt que de dépenser beaucoup d'énergie à imaginer, à convaincre, à argumenter sur telle ou telle solution, à prendre en compte tous les points de vue, tout ce qui pourrait arriver, et à choisir chaque mot pour que la décision finale soit bien écrite, cohérente, un vrai bijou, je mets mon énergie sur une écoute profonde et empathique des acteurs de cette décision, dont moi, et de l'organisation ici et maintenant. Quelque chose assez proche de la communication non violente, celui de passer d'un centre de validation qui est plutôt au niveau du cérébral, de la vision, des solutions projetées vers l'avenir, à une validation qui est plutôt ancrée au niveau du ventre, celui des besoins, ici et maintenant. Ça peut paraître anodin, mais je crois que tant qu'on ne l'a pas vécu, c'est difficile de se représenter ce switch, cet abîme auquel mon ego est confronté quand je dois faire la part des choses entre mes préférences et mes objections raisonnables. Lâcher cet attachement que j'avais pour ma si belle solution pour écouter mes limites, celles de l'autre, du groupe ou de la situation. Et lorsque ces limites émergent, elles vont dessiner un espace, un champ des possibles, dans lequel plusieurs décisions sont possibles. Et là encore, quel changement de paradigme pour moi? Ça veut dire que potentiellement, nous pouvons prendre des décisions qui sont très différentes, voire même qui nous orienteraient dans des directions carrément opposées. Mais c'est complètement illogique tout ça, ça n'a aucun sens. Et pourtant, si aucune ne lève d'objection, elles sont toutes praticables. Donc essayons-en une. Pour moi, cela ouvre un champ créatif qui permet de sortir de ces voies habituelles auxquelles le fonctionnement à la majorité pourrait nous amener. C'est-à-dire à emprunter toujours les mêmes voies, celles où la raison, l'habitude nous amènent. Et donc à faire toujours un peu plus de la même chose. Plutôt que de chercher l'étoile la plus brillante, nous avons devant nous une constellation de possibles. Nous pouvons expérimenter des décisions originales, différentes. Car tant qu'il n'y a pas d'objection, pourquoi ne pas essayer? Car de toute façon, j'en sais rien quelle est la meilleure option. Et je ne le saurai sans doute jamais. Car il faudrait essayer les deux. Alors si je faisais confiance, la vie, le groupe, le processus ont fait qu'à un moment, la question qui m'est posée n'est plus de choisir la meilleure option entre A et B, mais est-ce que j'ai une objection ici et maintenant à faire B? Si j'arrête de remettre en question le processus, d'en vouloir au proposeur d'avoir proposé B, je peux réellement me poser cette question. Est-ce que j'ai une objection à ce que ce soit B? Oui ou non? Pour répondre à cette question, je dois également changer mon regard sur l'objection. Ce oui, j'ai une objection qui veut dire non, je ne peux pas décider de faire B en l'état. C'est difficile parfois de dire non ou de recevoir un non. Pourtant, si cette objection est raisonnable, c'est-à-dire qu'elle est précise, concrète, argumentée et centrée sur la proposition qui est au centre, eh bien cette objection est un cadeau fait au cercle, dans la mesure où elle permet de rendre la proposition B praticable, réalisable. Avoir une objection raisonnable, ce n'est pas être contre la proposition B et pour l'option A. C'est être avec la proposition B, avec mes limites et celles de notre situation. Ne pas la poser serait faire sans moi ou sans notre réalité commune. Cela me demande de l'affirmation, de la souveraineté, car personne ne peut poser une objection à ma place. Et je n'ai pas à me soucier de comment l'autre vivra le fait que je pose cette objection. Un vrai travail de responsabilité pour prendre ce qui m'appartient et laisser à l'autre sa part. En arrivant à cette phase du traitement des objections, il y a un autre élément déroutant, celui de fonctionner par séquence. À l'UDN, je dis à l'UDN car tout le monde ne fait pas pareil dans le consentement à cet endroit, nous allons avancer par itérations successives. Tout d'abord en ne traitant qu'une objection à la fois. Plutôt que de mettre toutes les objections en même temps, au centre, et faire un gros plat de spaghettis où chacun pourra y aller de nouveau de son point de vue, de son « moi je pense que », nous allons traiter une objection et une seule. Par exemple celle de Bernadette. L'objection de Bernadette va être mise au centre. Je vais me mettre au service de cette intention, aider Bernadette à lever son objection. C'est-à-dire être réellement en écoute active, aller sur sa colline pour comprendre où est le risque pour elle. Pour ensuite pouvoir coopérer, soit en lui proposant des changements à faire dans la proposition, soit en lui donnant des informations qu'elle n'aurait pas, ou des façons différentes d'aborder le problème, jusqu'à ce qu'elle dise à un moment « Ah oui, ça lève mon objection ». Si ce qui lève son objection est une modification à apporter à la proposition, on la note et on passe à une autre objection, puis une autre, et encore une autre. Et c'est bien parce que je ne cherche pas à traiter mon objection, en même temps que celle de Bernadette, que je peux vraiment me mettre à son service. Et nous continuons à avancer en séquence, car une fois qu'on a traité toutes les objections et que la proposition a été modifiée, on refait un tour complet d'objections. Bah oui, car la proposition a évolué, ce n'est plus la même, donc on recommence un tour. Là encore, ça peut paraître fastidieux et long. Pourtant, avec la pratique, ça peut aller très vite. Et ça permet cet aller-retour entre le je et le nous. Cet aller-retour, cet équilibre entre le je et le nous est en soi un autre changement de valeur et de culture. Car à différentes étapes du processus, dans l'écoute du centre puis dans la décision, il m'invite à me positionner, à faire un choix dans ma souveraineté. Et ce faisant, je vais inciter les autres à faire pareil, c'est-à-dire à se positionner un à un. C'est une étape fondamentale dans l'intelligence collective, car c'est le moment où nous passons d'une phase de divergence, celle où nous pouvons complexifier le problème, pour le prendre dans sa globalité, élaborer des hypothèses, proposer des idées créatives. Et c'est nécessaire, c'est utile ce moment-là. Car il y a bien un moment où il va falloir commencer à converger. Et cette convergence du groupe démarre quand des jeux commencent à le faire. C'est-à-dire face à des hésitations ou des polarités fortes entre l'option A et l'option B, je vais dire, avec tout ce que j'ai entendu, eh bien pour moi c'est A. En faisant ça, je m'engage. Je fais un pas en avant vers le centre. Je me dis de façon authentique, connectée à moi, sans chercher à plaire aux autres, à les convaincre ou à les sauver. Puis, je fais un pas en arrière et j'écoute. De manière active et profonde, l'autre se dire, se positionner, en réaction ou pas à mon propre positionnement. Sans chercher ce que je vais lui répondre, juste écouter, ressentir ce qu'il dépose au centre. Et c'est le positionnement de chacun, chacune, précis, qui permet à chacun, chacune d'évoluer dans son positionnement et que petit à petit, le nous se positionne. Quelque chose émerge au centre qui n'est plus la somme des points de vue, ou un machin tout mou où on essaye de ménager la chèvre et le chou, ou un truc à tiroir avec plein de questions non traitées dedans, mais un choix, un vrai choix, simple, qui dit clairement ce à quoi il renonce. Toutes ces opportunités et réflexions merveilleuses desquelles on aurait pu discuter encore pendant des heures. Et c'est ce moment magique où une proposition est mise au centre, un jeu qui se sent centré à l'écoute du centre et qui dit « je propose B » et nous offre ce point de départ qui permet d'enclencher le processus de décision par consentement. Au final, on peut très bien avoir une décision qui, après 2 heures de ce chemin tortueux où on a enlevé, remis, enlevé de nouveau des parties, arrive à un résultat qui, pour un observateur extérieur, pourrait paraître quasiment identique à la proposition initiale. Mais il n'en est rien, et ceux qui ont vécu ce chemin le savent bien. Quand ils regardent avec un grand sourire cette feuille de paperboard avec plein de ratures, de rajouts, de renvois, ils voient derrière chaque rajout, chaque modification, une histoire humaine de rencontre. Une confrontation et des changements de point de vue, des jeux qui ont pu se dire et d'autres les écouter, parfois même des conflits larvés depuis des années qui ont trouvé résolution dans le traitement d'une objection qui paraissait au départ anodine. Le résultat écrit nous a permis de faire ce chemin ensemble. Et faire ce chemin ensemble charge le pas que nous avons décidé de faire d'une énergie de vie puissante. Un petit pas peut-être au niveau du résultat, mais un grand pas sur notre chemin collectif.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you Guillaume and team for that lovely video. Guillaume, do you want to introduce what we'd like people to do now?
So you will be spread out in your rooms, and first time, I think it's 3 or 4 minutes to share your reactions and questions that can raise from this, and then have let's say 12 minutes time to decide together a question from the group to be given to the big group, and for the questions and answers session after that. And the idea is really to find in the group which question can be interesting for you and for the community, something that can be useful for, yeah, to go deeper, to go further from your reality in these reflections of cooperation, of doing together. That's me.
So I've just shared in the chat, there's a Google Doc where once you've decided your collective question as a group, you can make notes about that. And I've also put in the chat the written questions, so you've got the notes of what we'd like to talk to you about. And now I will put you back into your breakout groups so that you can talk about those. And we've got some new people or rejoined people. I'm just going to put you in a different group altogether. So if anyone's having trouble joining their group, let me know, though I don't know what I'll be able to do to help. So Davies, I don't know if you can see something that's a button to press to join your group, or perhaps if it's...
Check the chat. I just share with you what I'm not joining the group. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine.
You tell me as when you think I can go on.
I think you can go on, Guillaume. Yes.
You think?
And
okay.
look at this dizzying array of questions.
Okay, so back to the webinar. Just short questions I will ask you before we go on. And I ask you to use the reactions button to answer. It's just binary question, you know. So raise your thumb with using this button reactions. If this session was pleasant for you, was it pleasant to decide this question in your group? Okay, second question, was it easy? I trust you to tell me the truth. Was it challenging for yourself? Okay, and the last question, did I have to change my way of behaving or my way of cooperating during that process to change something, to readjust my posture? Okay, thank you. So thank you for these questions. We have 8 questions. So question number 1, I will ask someone to ask it. So Cristiano, Giulia, or Pino, one of you, can you please express your question? Just read your question, and if you need to add something so that the question is really clear or to make a link with a situation, please do it, but very shortly.
Okay, I can go. Simply, me and Giulia, we are using methodologies like that very often. And the first reaction you have from people when you present, for instance, the methodology for the ascents, and this feeling of going through a process which is very, very slow, difficult, and the risk of wasting time during this kind of activities. So this was the question. If you have tricks or ideas on how to make this first approach easier, basically.
Thank you. Has someone a direct answer to give to this question from your experience, something to share? Please raise your hand. Yes, Eileen, please.
Hi, in my experience, it's helped to say in advance that this is going to seem like it takes longer, but it will save time later, and ask people to reflect on other processes that took a long time anyway. So I think as the facilitator, if you come back and say, ask about the feeling, does it feel like it's taken a long time? And also trying to focus on the result. Like if you come to a decision, then it might feel like it's taken a long time, but it might actually have taken less time. So to be really clear that to raise the issue, like, how does this feel? Does it feel slow? And then respond to it. I've tried that before.
Thank you. Abdul?
Yes, so I live in a community when you have people coming and going, so newcomers are coming. And what we try to do is we let newcomers explaining when you have a community meeting or decision making to explain the process, and they put in a refreshing position. So I have to remember that, and we can also check, was it understood correctly, or do we need to clarify? And also, since it's a very slow process, at least we have delegated that part to somebody new, and it's empowering for them. And say for me, and that how much? Okay, you can count. We have a community meeting every week, so 50 times a year. So
Okay, thank you. So I will add something. We will try by having two answers and then me completing because of the time flowing. Thank you for the question. It's just like yeah, as you said, Eileen, it's just like learning something new at the beginning when you ride a bicycle. It's very slow, and even you can fall down, and even you go faster by walking, you know, than cycling. But it needs to practice. It's really something to share that this process is a practice, and you have the group is faster and faster by practicing. Another thing which is really, really important is to include times after having processed, having used this process, to reflect on the process and how people were feeling. Was it good or not? What could we improve the next time, so that the groups can really make a step forward and have a better experience the time after. And these times are really, yeah, this really very important at the beginning. So within beginners, let's say, but also after that, you know, there is always something to say after a meeting, to take from this experience, allowing the whole group to get more consciousness of what happened and how was it. I mean, why did we take so much time that time? What was the problem actually? Let's take together the responsibility of this answer and think about it all together. These are the answers that are coming to me. Does it bring something to you, your group? What was shared? Can use hand signals if it's the case. Okay, thank you. Second question. So please, the same is if Sarah or Andrea can ask it, please.
Please, Sarah.
So we were interested in when is it not useful to use consent decision making, and we were thinking both about the circumstances of the group or the type of decision. When are the times when consent decision making might not be the right process?
Thank you. Has someone answers from their experience? Benoit?
Yes, I think the difference between the consensus and the consent, we are talking a lot on shared governance about the consensus, but I agree with you that there are some times where we need a consent when it's something that is fundamental for the group. When you are a few people starting a project, for instance, I would highly, from my experience, of course, I would highly recommend to make sure that everyone agrees and say yes to the consent of the given idea, and make sure that we are all in the same boat, and then we go for defining a strategy, for instance, and start taking some actions and decisions with the consensus. That's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. Another one wants to share something? Cristiano.
I normally recommend not to use this when you really see that the environment is clearly ruled under other rules, because it can be very frustrating, because in the end they will do the way they want to do, and sometimes it's them asking for a new way to do things when it's clear that they are not using something different. So that is going to be a great waste of time for the facilitators, for the group, and very frustrating, because you give them this sort of possibility, and then in the end it will be cancelled by the group. So when you spot that, my suggestion is, well, don't pretend to do something like this and go playing with the rules they already have.
Thank you. Yeah, I can add different things. I think, first of all, there is in this question another one, which is, when is it useful to decide together? And when is it useful just to decide not together? I mean, on my own, for example. And in shared governance, we use consent decision making, especially to decide roles, new roles and accountabilities in the roles, and in order to be sure that at some points we are not obliged to be all together to decide things, because there are places where it's really not possible. And we have tried, so I can tell you, don't do it. And sometimes it is useful to decide things together. So the roles, strategic points, or whatever, it can be different things in the group, and it can change during the time. Sometimes at the beginning, for example, I have a company, a firm, where they have decided all together the way they will get paid, and they just not the whole of their income, but a part of it. You know, this prime. I don't know if it's the same word in English, but a part of the income. And at the beginning, they decided there was a role for it, okay, because it was not so easy. And then little by little, they decided to do it within a circle, and at the end, really, the whole group decides together how they will decide it at the income, because they get confidence about that we can do it together. So, and then when is it useful not to use consent decision making? So when you are alone in your role and you decide also alone, you don't do a consent, although it can be useful to see within yourself the different parts of you that are to consent. There can be really important things, for example, to see the purpose of an organization, which is something that has to be really felt by the group and not fought with the consent. Or also, for example, when you create a new enterprise or a new activity, it's important that the core, the first persons who are here are really making a consensus, making sure that they all say, yes, this is what we have to do, and not it could be something else, because you've seen consent can lead to very different issues for the same problem, the same topic. And following what Cristiano said, it's important to, in such places where the rule is not to decide by consent, so you do it but fake, it's good to, it can be possible to have spaces just that are tries, and that is clear to all that we try here. We try just again, and then again we think about it and we see whether it's possible or not. The group has to see and to feel it. Maybe it's, for some of the people, it can be that it's too violent to do it. It's or too difficult. I really have seen some people really struggling with how to give my objection. What the fuck, how difficult it is to see what an objection is. And it's not easy for me to say I have an objection, for example, by an election by consent, objection that Tommy or someone that I don't agree that this one, I have an objection that this one have this role or this one or another role. It's difficult to express. So people have to try it with, I would say, topics at the beginning which are not too high stakes. Something, okay, let's decide by consent where we will go to, what we will eat today in the restaurant tonight, for example, although it can be tricky. And then think about it, and then try another topic the time after. That's me. Does it bring something to you? Can you do this? Yes. Okay, it seems to. Perfect. Question 3. How? Yes, Eileen or Juan, please.
Yeah. Should I do it, Juan?
Go ahead.
Okay. How to build trust in a group so that we can understand and receive objections as gifts. Trust is like the earth in a garden. We need it for the group to grow.
Thank you. I like that question. You have answers. Clara, please.
Sorry, I might sound very low, my microphone. I think it's easier when the group is new, but when the group has dynamics before, it's very difficult because it's very difficult to separate the person from the idea or from the objection and completely transform the system. So that's the experience I had. I don't really have an answer, but I think it's just when you start from a new and the group is somehow very different and they are all experimenting for the first time or for the same time, then it's easier to build trust because everyone can feel that they're in the same moment of the process. But it might be more difficult when there were previous dynamics and the group is trying to change, because then egos and power issues that were in the group before remain, and then it becomes a bit what you were saying before, that they are saying that they want to implement this system, but it's just because they feel that it might help them in their own gains instead of really opening up to a new system. That's the experience I had so far.
Thank you. Another?
I see Sarah's hand up electronically.
Yes, please, Sarah.
I think there's something for me about really paying attention to the facilitation and the language that's used. So there's something about really telling a story of let's try this, let's experiment, and if we're going to experiment, then objections will really help us to learn. So that's a way to really encourage objections, because then we've got some material to work with, and when we do the review, the reflection at the end of the meeting, we'll have something to do. So there's something about being really encouraging about that. And then the other thing I was thinking about was how we so often use language and ways of facilitating that can make people feel, that can shut people down. So for, just the way of sort of giving space for objections, time for objections, not to be always emphasizing we've only got this amount of time, that can really sort of give a message of, if you're a good member of this group, you won't raise any more issues, and there's so many ways in the way that we respond to objections that we can either really support people to bring them, or we can make them feel like we can't make anybody feel anything, but we can end up with a message to them that they've caused a problem. And I think for me, there's something about always, when I'm facilitating, really keeping my feet on the ground and feeling present, and really myself feeling curious and interested about the objections that are coming. And I know that when I'm in that place, I can welcome them. And if I'm in a place where I'm feeling under-resourced and tired, it's harder. And that has an impact on the energy of the whole group.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, facilitation is really important for that. And it's more about what I call animation. It's more animation than facilitation. I mean, in animation, it's really, you have to accompany the one who's beginning to use this process, really with your empathy, to feel how it is, not to be sure whether it's an objection, a reasonable objection or not, or feeling that by giving this objection, I'm just throwing a bomb into the group and not a gift. And there is there is for the facilitator and animator, and also for the group to have empathy. And this is a very important point, which is, you know, under the process. The goal of the session of treating objections is really to make the solution how we say as I'm looking for that expression in English, as good as
say it in French, we'll translate.
No, it's in English one. Oh, anyway, so the idea is really to make it possible, to make the solution possible for the group. And so underneath there is this, the group has to pay attention to the level of hearing and feeling what the objector brings, you know. We really have to pay attention. This is really non-violent communication here. The first thing is really to understand what the objection is, really, and don't hesitate to ask people to ask the one who has the objection to express it so that you can understand it. And then you are up to the hill, and then you can help him find a solution. And then the group sees, feels, although it's not, it's maybe unconscious, but feels that there is an energy, something which is from your heart. And this is a good experience within the group. And of course, if the first time you do a consent, it's a trauma because it's too hard and objection, then it's very difficult for the group after that to feel that objection can be a gift, because you know you have seen it. And believe me, sometimes when you hear someone saying an objection, you don't feel that it is a gift at the very beginning. But it's part of the way we behave as humans. And once again, it's good to analyze this after that. How could you see how the energy was down as soon as you gave your objection? This wasn't a gift at the very beginning, you know, but together we have decided, we have helped you, and this became a gift. The gift is to me in the nature of this human experience by doing it. Shaktari, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I come from a systems background, and objections frequently, well, almost always, bring up issues that are in our blind spots, especially if there's a group where we're sort of in a groupthink mode because we've been around for a long time. And so from that standpoint, objections, whatever you do with them, can be seen as gifts. They're an opportunity to look at things from a different lens, from a different point of view, and to evaluate whether there's something missing. And so I always try to come from that place with objections.
Thank you. Maybe one last thing is trust also the time, the process. There are groups where at the beginning and the first, second, third experiences, this is difficult, and objection is really it's difficult. But little by little, the group finds its own intelligence, and it becomes true that it is really a gift. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I go on. I hope we will have time to treat all these questions. Question 4, please, Tommy, Benoit, or Abdul.
Yes. So,
yeah, you want to go? Yeah.
How to get everyone within the group skilled at sociocracy and shared governance practices, and refresh also from time to time without too much time invested, especially in a setup when most people are volunteers within and out.
Thank you. Has someone answer to that?
I can share my own experience, but it's not done. So it's the experiment, and let's see what the others react to. Because we're trying to implement sociocracy in an association where we are all volunteers as well. So there was a group on methodology, and I was in that group, and someone proposed the system, and they knew people from sociocracy for all, so people that could facilitate the group so that the group could start learning. From that group, we tried to share the experience with the coordinating team. And then from the experience of these, there you have some members from the other groups. So little by little, it is seeping to the other groups. But at the same time, you have the challenge that those groups didn't get the same basic knowledge on the system. It's a bit like they heard, it's like, I heard that this could be done like this and it is done like that. So facilitating is key. What we are trying to do is having skilled facilitators in the process to help any group that wants to implement it. So these facilitators are actually sharing the methodology and how things should be done. But still we have the question of how, and then someone new comes to our group, and how do you start all over again and share the process and make sure everyone is on the same level, which is never happening. But at least that helped us, having a facilitating team that is helping. That is one of the things helping, but still many challenges.
Thank you. Yes, Eileen.
I just remembered something that came up in a training I did about, it was specifically sociocracy, but it applies to shared governance as whole, that the newcomers or beginners to the group are asked to consent, to agree that they will participate in the process and follow it, even though they don't know everything about it. Like this, it's made aware at the beginning, you don't know what the process is, but they consent to say, we'll try it, we'll follow along. If we really don't understand, we'll ask, but we'll trust the process, we'll trust the group, and we'll trust the facilitator that they know what they're doing. But it's made very explicit that the beginners don't know, and they get a chance to find out.
Thank you. I totally agree. I think this is an important question that can be given to a group in an organization, and to be put in the including process. How do we include new people, and what is the package they have to know by joining a group? Giving sometimes opportunities for people to attend to meetings when they are not skilled at the beginning, for example, to attend and to just to observe, or to attend without having objection right. It's interesting. Yeah, and then it depends also, there are different ways of teaching that can be used. People are really, they read the process and they can understand it, and it's something like a second nature. They are very clever. Among the young people it's easier and easier for the young people to understand it. I can see it. And for some of them, it's totally ununderstandable, and they have to experience it, and they can feel it. And once again, experiencing, practicing, and reflecting on the practice is a key point. Does it answer to you, the one who had the question? Perfect. So I continue with question 5. Arlene and Juan.
Juan, do you want to take this one?
Well, I can. I mean, you brought this one, but I can.
Please, Juan, don't be shy.
Well, I just want to leave space for everyone. So I can take it. Well, basically this came from the challenge that we have in our organizations and in many grassroots initiatives of making visible the power relations that they are behind, because they always exist, and we are very idealistic. So it's very easy to receive messages from people about look, we are not horizontal enough, or we really need to make decisions by consensus because consent is not good enough, and how to explain why consent is much more, it's kind of a mix, it's much more practical, but it's about trust. And in this kind of theoretically horizontal culture, at the end, the power relations, even if you don't see it so easily, they are of course there, and who makes the decisions is the one that speaks louder or things like that. So I think we were just discussing about this, and we just frame it in this way, but it was about how would you work with this kind of challenge in grassroots initiatives, for example.
Has someone something to share related to that question? Okay. So
I'm sure it's something that everyone has faced here in one way or another.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
it does have a cautious setup.
So that's why, yeah, it just came as a...
Sarah, please.
I suppose what was coming to me was, I remember when we were working with you, Guillaume, it felt really helpful to start by some analysis of what is already there. And I personally found the spiral dynamics, the different colors, the different ways of sharing power and working together. I found that quite a useful way of understanding what's already happening. You know, we're an organization that's, I mean, if I think of the TN example, we were so used to doing a lot of things by consensus that everybody came together and everybody had to say, and was part of shaping each step of the organization. And there's something about really making that visible and giving space for us to understand what was good about that, but also to explore what was causing difficulties. And for us, there was a whole, it was possible to become, it became clear how much time that was taking, and what a burden it was on everybody, and that actually it was slowing us down in our ways of being able to respond. But that was just the answer for us. But there was something about really making visible what's already there, and and then using that as a questioning about, is there a commitment to do a shift, and why might we be making the shift? What is it that we want to move away from, and what are we trying to achieve?
Yes, thank you. What comes to me is two elements here. Is sometimes it's really the consensus culture is really deep in an organization, and when it's really part of the culture, it's important to see it and to recognize it. And you know, this position of accompanier is interesting for that. The one who's accompanying can really give the mirror of what they see, what's here, and to see how important, to also to understand and to be also to have empathy that the organization sometimes it's can't do something else than really taking time, because it's important, it's in their culture, and also challenging it, but really you know, kindly, really with love, challenging it, and just to see what it can bring for the group. Yeah, I just have only that to share. Okay, can we move on to the next question? We have, let's say, 10 minutes more for question and answer before the end.
Guillaume, you might want to take questions 6 and 8 together because they seem there's similarities.
Cool. Thank you for this idea. So let's try it. Question 6 and 8. Maybe someone, Pedro, Rafael, or Delphine, can you express it, and someone from the other group can complete?
Well, I can, if Delphine allows me, I will share it.
Please.
Well, our question was quite simple, let's say, or direct, is about how do we bring shared governance to normal people, and please don't ask us what is normal people. I hope you'll understand what we mean.
Okay, maybe from the other group to complete and give the sense of your question, the root of your question.
Okay, I'll try to give a sense about the question about how to initiate this practice in society at large. It had to do with where do we cut into the structure of the community to bring consent making forward. Do we start at the community level, and there are so many different groups, and do we have resources to bring them together, and who should be involved? Do we start at the municipal level, where often there are very well established and long-standing ways of doing community engagement or decision-making that's in place through legislation? Where's the best place to get the DNA of consent to your community, I guess?
Thank you. Are there answers? Are there experience to share to that question?
I think Cristiano raised his hand. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, please.
I think there are at least two ways. One is explicit and one is not explicit. And the explicit way is when you just make them to reasoning on what doesn't work in the common way of doing stuff, making decision. And if they are not very, very, very young, when you are very, very young, you don't have the experience of all the problems you go through. But if you are grown up a little bit, they know how difficult it is to make decisions. So one way is to say, you want to try something different from that, because you know what happened when we do like that. And this can raise curiosity, and you can start a process like that. But sometimes you don't have the time, the possibility to go through something like this. For instance, I work a lot with the technicians from municipalities. They come for 2 hours, they have 2 hours, and they go, and you lost them. You probably have only that possibility to do something, and you just drop something like, okay, this is a tricky problem. Can I suggest a different way to make this decision or to analyze this stuff? And you just use a pattern from sociocracy, for instance, without explaining too much, just guiding them through that. And they normally get that is different. They don't really understand what's happening, but they get that it's different. And very often they ask for the same next time. No, why don't we do it like the other time, which was funny, which was nice, it was interesting, because, you know, everyone has the possibility to talk, everyone will feel listened and understood and everything, so they enjoy the process. So these are two ways that I use normally, and somehow they work. And there might be many other possibilities, but at least you have these two ways.
Yes, thank you. I can add that, you know, when you want to give such a way of working, shared governance in an organization, it's never the case where all the places take it and it works. I mean, there are different speeds, there are different places, different circles, and sometimes there are circles where they don't use the consent because they have another way to decide that works perfectly. Then in that case, just forget it. Don't use the consent. I mean, it's okay. There has to be a need for that. And another thing that came to me with that question is to pay attention to the ego of that we all have here normally, I think, that says, okay, using consent doesn't work, or I will do just a part of it. I will skip this step because no, this is not cool. I don't like it. It hasn't worked last time. No, it's really pay attention by implementing this decision by consent to use all these logical things, because sometimes there are really some breaks, really people fighting against the consent because of they are used to using something that is perfect for them, that is comfortable for them, but they don't face the real problems. It's important to give this information. Let's go to last question because we have just 4 minutes left for this session before ending. Question, so 7, Hilary, Clara, or Martina?
Maybe I can explain the question. I think it's similar to what we were saying before. So I have a specific context in mind where I find myself working with different partners and especially with a city administration. And I find it really, really difficult because they use a way of working and processes that I'm not used to and I'm not comfortable with. So I think that some other questions were related to this situation. So some ideas were of inspiration for me. So, but if there is anything else coming up, I'm happy to listen.
Thank you. Is there something else to share?
Maybe to enrich the question, if people have experience on turning one group with one dynamic to the new dynamic and being successful in that. Or specific actors have a dynamic and you successfully turn them to another dynamic.
Sorry, I didn't catch the question.
No, it's enriching the original question.
Yeah.
So if maybe people in their group have experience, successful experience, when they had a specific actor partner that was used to work in another way, and they successfully got them into the different dynamic. Like in case of this.
I don't think this is going to be completely an analogy. Because in Transition Network, when we shifted to shared governance, we had at least all decided that we were going to do this shift. But we did still feel that it was redesigning the aircraft while it was flying along. There's a very unsustainable metaphor for you. But we weren't going to stop what we were doing and how we were already working and organising, but we still had to shift and reorganise while we were still doing all that work. So it did feel a little bit like we've got the old systems while we're dreaming the new systems. And one thing we did do was just try it out in one project first. And so I feel like maybe, you know, in that much bigger scenario of working with the city administration, and in fact, possibly what we want to do in the municipality and transition pioneers is, you've got one collaboration, you've got one team that's going to try working in this way. They can sort of share their experience with the rest of the administration as it's going, and then, you know, then there might become a point where the whole aircraft can decide as one to shift. But to try it out in one team first or in one project might be one way to do it.
Thank you. Yes, I think we will stop here for questions and answers. Thank you very much. Before I let you, Nicola, saying something on MIT maybe, and after that, having 3 words to express how we are at the end. Just to share that there are different ways. It's always different, and but I think one thing which has really helped me is to understand within my organization, and the one I'm accompanying, is to understand that I have the power, and from where I am, from which role I have, on each place I can be, each meeting, I can do something, or I can behave in such a way that it increases something, and it really works. It really works. And so each time I'm wondering, I'm asking myself how it doesn't work, how could we do, and we didn't do that and that. That's why each time I think that I know the truth, you know, something like that. It's easy to say bad things on what's happening. I have to think about no. What about changing me and changing something inside of me, and I can have the answer. And this can really, you know, it can really help the whole organization to shift from a point. It's just like you know, the dominoes. It's just like one is falling down and all it spreads to. It's really magic, this effect. There is really a true intelligence in the life in organizations that work that way, by sharing the power. I really experienced that. Thank you very much for all these exchanges. I hope it was useful. And maybe, yeah, Nicola, I give you time to say something before we check out, please.
Yeah, thanks so much, Guillaume. In fact, thanks everybody, because there were so many fantastic answers from all sorts of people here. But thank you so much, Guillaume. That was so useful. I just wanted to say at the end, I think Tommy's about to post all sorts of links in the chat, because if you're not already on our mailing list, email list for this community of practice, and you'd like to be, there's a link there to sign up and register, because if you're particularly interested in getting the recording of this call, you have to be on that list, or we won't know where to email it. And there's also a Facebook group for this community of practice there that Tommy's linked to, and the websites where we are organising all the next sessions and webinars for this community of practice. So our next one is going to be on the 9th of July. It will be a different format to this, because it will be our virtual cafe, which is an open conversation, although this has been a pretty open conversation. And so actually we haven't set the theme for that open conversation yet. I mean, you're welcome to bring whatever theme you want, but we try to set an overall theme. So if you do have particular ideas or requests, do get in touch. Otherwise, the co-guardians will definitely think of something. So yeah, I just want to say thank you very much, and I'll hand back to Guillaume so he can take us out of this meeting.
Yes, so thank you. I was having a look at the time. Maybe we could have time to decide by consent the next theme, you know, the next topic, but I'm not sure it's a good idea. So to check out 3 words to express how you are and what you have experienced. Just let's take 30 seconds, 40 seconds to look inside of you, to feel what is here and what comes as an answer to these questions. And now the game will be for you to write your 3 words, and don't press enter.
You want to write it in chat?
Yes, please. And we will press enter all together and make Zoom explode. 1, 2, 3.
You need to make this is not a real explosion, come on. You need more power.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, then you better all unmute your mics, then you can make an explosion.
Come on, Guillaume. We are very tired at this moment of the day, I know.
Thank you, Guillaume.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Guillaume,
you.
and everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks a lot.
Bye all.
Thank you all. Adieu.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.